So, good evening, friends from India, and good afternoon, friends from Europe. Uh, I must appreciate Sushma for completing 4 years. And let me tell you, friends, it's not an easy journey for her. Coming from a small city of Satara, uh, a small village, in fact, from India, and studying, finance, studying marketing, uh, uh, helping exporters. I have seen her journey, uh, and it's really great. And I appreciate Global Fortune for completing 4 years. Now let's move to our first speaker today. Uh, my very good friend. I have enjoyed Netherlands, Rotterdam. I still remember that. Thank you, Jan. So his name is Jan, and he basically, when we met, he was representing a Dutch external ministry, floated program, what they call CBI. When I say CBI in India, people feel it's a police or something spying organization. Not at all. CBI is Center for the Promotion of Imports from Developing Countries, and Jan was coordinating everything with Indians that time. And I'm so happy to see him again. Jan has helped many Indians to start their business in Netherlands. Uh, he keeps helping them. He runs one company which right now does trade fairs, help trade fair stands to everything. But more than that, it is not just limited to that. First of all, understand Indians. He's a Dutch. Those who know Netherlands need no introduction of the country, which is thriving on trading. They do. I mean, I fall in love with that country for simple reason. The Dutch entrepreneurship is something every Indian should learn. I'm sure he will talk more about it. So he is going to talk on subjects which is definitely going to help us as exporters from India. And that is the reason we will be starting with him. Uh, I will not speak more than this because let him speak his subject. Over to you, Jan. Thank you. So I think somebody need to unmute Jan so that he can start his presentation.
Maybe you can go to the second slide because people already know who I am after this beautiful introduction by Parag. I just wanted to start out with a random email. A random email of the type that I get on a daily basis. Because apparently know that European put me on some sort of list and then start sending emails. And I just want to start out with this just to show you, look, guys and girls, this is not the way to do it. Dear sir, madam, so obviously they have not looked up my name nor looked up my gender. And if they would have done a little bit of research, they would probably have concluded that I am not going to buy precision aluminium and zinc casted machined components. But anyway, they sent me the email. They even sent a gentle reminder. So it's probably already the second email to send. So please don't do this. Okay, you can go to the next slide. Because then your question, obviously, not sure if you can see the next slide. Then your question obviously is, okay, what should I do then? Well, it is actually relatively easy to find your European prospective client. And you can get a more tailored message across to them. And by doing that, you increase your chances for a reply. And in the end, your chance for business, because I'm more entitled to respond to your message then. I'm still seeing my second slide. Is it possible for someone to? Yeah. So you can actually find your customer and address them in a proper way. And you can move to the next slide. So in the 10 minutes, and by now probably 8 minutes, I want to push you in a certain direction, direction of thought and direction of action for as far as possible within 10 minutes. So we're going to touch upon a few things. Your product needs to fit in the European market, assuming you're coming to Europe. I see there are other countries today that are being promoted and presented, but your product needs to fit in. But who should I target then, and how do I find these people? How do I find my buyer? And then how do I get them interested enough to communicate with me? And the good news is it is relatively easy to do. Next slide, please. Obviously, it takes some work. I mean, it's relatively easy to do. It's a lot of work because you need research. Europe is a different world. Everybody who traveled to Europe will know it's a very different world from India, but it is also a very different world in terms of technical and legal regulations. And unfortunately, the bad news is normally our regulations are quite a bit stricter than the ones in India. We have, for example, regulations on data protection. I cannot just use data that you send me. I need to tell you what I do with it. I need to store them in a safe way, etc. CE marking. If you make a piece of machinery or anything that moves, for that matter, we want to be sure that we do not get injured. And there is a set of tests you need to do to make sure that your product does not harm us Europeans. And if you pass those tests, you can put your CE mark on it. For many products, it is absolutely required. We are very strict in food safety. Everything we put in our body, we are extremely strict on that, extremely careful with that. For example, if you want to export food to Europe, we have very strict pesticide norms, for example. And even the packaging. Packaging is not just the packaging. Packaging has all sorts of rules and regulations. I put as an example fumigation. So you need to do something with the wood to be sure that in the wood no diseases or fungi or whatever we don't want in there is imported into Europe together with your product. And then based on your sector, your industry, there are probably many sector-specific certifications that you must apply and that you must adopt. So it requires a bit of research before you come to Europe. May I have the next slide, please? Because there are requirements by law and there are requirements because your client would want them. We care a lot about sustainability. We want our products to be produced in a responsible way by people who earn a decent living, for example. And there are all sorts of, again, certificates also for that. And you think packaging, okay, I just put some packaging around it. No, but packaging has also, in terms of non-legal requirements, where we more and more Europeans don't want plastic or as little as possible, for example. If you export food and you want to reach a certain niche market that is concerned about the environment, and you want to go for biological food, organic food, there's a whole set of rules. So really, depending on which product you have, there are lots of things to research. And also there are trends that you can use to lift lived with the growth. You Indians are often vegetarians, so it may please you to know that more and more Europeans. No, Parag, you are not. Parag is not vegetarian, but many Indians are. So it will please you that more and more Europeans are at least part-time vegetarians, not for religious reasons, but for environmental reasons or just for health reasons. So that is definitely a trend, and it's an unstoppable trend. We are rolling out 5G in Europe, and with 5G, a whole range of new technological services come into our world and our daily lives. From cars who can drive themselves to I don't know, anything. But if you have a product that could use those trends, then do use them, because they are the real unstoppable market trends. And also good to know, we are slowly moving away from fossil fuels and anything oil, gas related. In 2050, the European Union aims to be carbon neutral. And that is also a trend where you can maybe, if your product fits there, use those trends to have an even bigger growth than the one you would be foreseeing. May I have the next slide, please? I just put a few research sources that came across my mind, because there are too many and I don't know which products you all produce. But the first link is actually a website of the European Union, and it gives you a lot of very useful information about trade statistics. The import of your product into Germany, France, the total of the European Union. How is that developing? Is it growing? Is it going down? And if it's going down, which alternative products are we using then? Are we importing more? It gives you information about taxes, about certifications, about other trade barriers. So it's very, very good source if you want to export to Europe, to the European Union. Parag already briefly mentioned CBI, so I put a link there of CBI because although CBI does not deal with Indian companies anymore, unfortunately, you can still access a lot of market reports through the link I gave there. And it's free market research. It's there for you to just use, and it gives you information about many sectors, about what the supply chain in Europe looks like, and who the big parties are, and what the important trade shows are to go to. So definitely worth looking there to see if your sector is there, and then download whatever is relevant to you and your business. In Europe, in any industry, we have associations, like probably you have in India. And those associations, they have members, but they also have lots of publications, very useful publications. And even if they don't have, you can always call them, ask them for certain information. At least they can tell you where to find it. So it's definitely something where you want to look into. What are the sector associations in my industry in Europe? And then same for embassies, be it Indian embassies in Europe, be it Dutch, German, French, Spanish, Italian embassies in India. They probably have lots of answers to most of your questions. So that's all part of your research. How do I fit my product into the European market? And then the last one I put is trade shows. As Parag rightly mentioned, I'm a lot involved in trade shows these days. But trade shows are not alone trade shows anymore. Trade shows more and more become industry platforms, where they try to catch your attention the entire year with lots of relevant information for you in your sector. And then once a year, there is the grand finale of the trade show, and you meet in Paris or Frankfurt or Munich or Barcelona. But throughout the year, you can find lots of very useful information on this platform of the trade show. And then I would like to have my next slide. A few words on Europe. Of course, I am a cosmopolitan European, but I'm also a proud Dutchman. The Netherlands, we consider ourselves the gateway to Europe. One reason is that we have the largest seaport in Europe, Rotterdam, and from Rotterdam, we supply to the rest of Europe. So when it comes to logistics, Netherlands is very interesting to look at. And even if you think, okay, Netherlands is only a small country, which is true, but we come to that, or the second point here, we have an internal market, the joint EU internal market. Means that if your product is in the Netherlands or in Italy or in Sweden, it can also go to any other country, member state of the EU. So we have free movement of goods between countries. So you don't necessarily have to sell in the Netherlands, for example, to have your logistic hub in the Netherlands from where you transport your goods to wherever your customer is. So keep that in mind. We are once your product is in, technically you can sell it everywhere. Of course, you still need to research if someone from Sweden has the same desire for your product as someone in Italy, but technically there's no problem. You can move your goods freely within this internal market. And the same goes for you as a person, at least once you have a Schengen visa. Not sure if you are familiar with the word Schengen. Actually, Schengen is a small village in Luxembourg where the Schengen Treaty was signed, was agreed. And that treaty is about the free movement of persons between all the member states, all those who signed up, which is most of the European Union countries, and even a few others, I believe. So once you are entitled to enter on a Schengen visa, you can also travel to any member state. So if you land in Frankfurt in Germany, you can also travel to France and to the Netherlands and to Italy without issue. You do need to apply for a Schengen visa, and in order to have a chance to get it, you need to have people sending you an invitation letter in those different countries. Okay, very strict rules. Already mentioned that. We have very strict rules. Sorry for that, but that's just the way it is. We have to deal with it. Even as Europeans, we often feel that we are over-regulated, but there's no way to change it. We have to live with it, and you have to live with it, and you have to adhere to it if you want to export to Europe. Could I see the next slide, please? So who to target? Okay. With all this information, hopefully you get an idea, like, okay, what countries, what markets would be interested in my product? And then you need to make your choices there. And basically it doesn't really matter what you choose, although I always hope that you choose the Netherlands, but it doesn't really matter as long as whatever you choose is backed up by data. You did your research and you know that as a certain country with a certain product, you have a reasonable chance. And then what I always want to stress is don't always go for the big ones, or actually leave the big ones. Everybody wants to supply to Volkswagen and Nestle and all the big multinationals. But the problem is, most of you will be relatively small companies, small, medium-sized companies. And when Volkswagen comes to you with one inquiry, even if you can do that, you probably have your production capacity fully filled up with one customer. So you may want to choose not to go for the big multinationals. First of all, it's very hard to get into in the first place. So you have better chance at medium-sized, but still sizable companies. So look for companies that have a reasonable size, and they have they want to they need your supply, they need your product, but they do not fill up 100% of your capacity. And if you lose them as a customer, not all your business is gone. And probably the chance that you can actually match their requirements is much bigger than in the same case with, for example, Volkswagen. Just some free piece of advice. Could I have the next slide, please? Because the problem, of course, is Volkswagen I can find, but how do I find those maybe less visible, smaller companies? Well, there are a few ways to do that. Me being in trade shows, I'd say trade show exhibitor lists are one source. On these websites, in these lists, companies also present themselves. They tell you what they produce, what their strong points are they're looking for. So based on that, you can decide, hey, is this company interesting for me to talk to? Same actually goes for member lists of sector associations. You can all find them on their websites. They're all there with a small profile on what they do. And then you can decide from that as a first selection, okay, this could be an interesting company for me. They could, based on what they do, there is a good chance they need my product. They produce food, I produce ingredients for food, so there is a good. I put, of course, the Smart Global Expo in there as well. Smart Global Expo. In my screen, I don't see my presentation anymore. I see a Parag's face, which is a very pleasant face, but I don't see my presentation anymore. So I'm not sure if that only goes for me or whether everybody sees Parag's face now. But one way, of course, is the Smart Global Expo. We founded the Smart Global Expo. It is a multi-sectoral permanent virtual exhibition, and you can sign up there and have your own virtual events. You can have an event like we are having now. You can host it also, for example, there, but you can actually present yourselves as if it were a real trade show, but then virtually. You're happy to join, but only, is my advice, only do that when you really have a clear idea of with what product am I going to target which customer. Because if you have a clear idea of that, then the Smart Global Expo becomes an interesting tool for you. There's a trade directories. I've not been using it lately, but the Compass one I have been using in the past, and it was quite useful at that time. So I think they are still there. I checked, and I think they still have the same service. So you can select based on many criteria like company size, industry, and you can also find names of purchase directors and CEOs, etc. there. And also LinkedIn. In Europe, I'd say 95+% of all the purchasing directors, of all the CEOs, and other interesting contact persons for you, they have a profile on LinkedIn telling you where they work and what role they have. So you can just select them, find the purchasing directors, And then, not like the email I initially showed you, but contact them with a personalized message. And you could take a premium account. It gives you more selection criteria. In Europe, it costs 70 euros per month. I'm not sure about the Indian prices, but if you use it well, I believe it's well worth it. You can select your target markets, industry, size, and then once you found your company, your target company, you can look up who does the purchasing there. You have a specific contact person, specific person you need to contact. You want to talk to you about your solution.
Jan, we are running late. My request to finish quickly.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. So you found them on LinkedIn or somewhere else. They will only buy from you if you have a solution for their problem. So ask them what issues. May I have the next slide? And the next one. So you skip. So you just ask them what their problem is. They will only buy if you have the solution for their problem. So you have to ask them. Next slide, please. You have to find out what their problem is. Next slide, please. Because the good news is you can just ask them. You can even literally ask them, what problems are you facing regarding the supply of? And then you let them know what your product is. And it's all relatively easy, but it takes a lot of work, as I said. Make sure you know what their name and gender is. Don't go bulk mailing. Build a relation of trust and respect. Next slide, please. Do not overpromise. It is okay. You cannot do everything. You're not Superman. Superman doesn't exist, only in movies. So be fair. If you cannot do something, just tell them you cannot do something. Don't say that you can if you cannot. You can also team up. You can form a cluster. You're 10,000 exporters. Well, you can team up with a few make each other stronger. Next slide, please. Good luck to you all with your export endeavors. And I look forward to seeing you at the Smart Global Expo or at the trade show anywhere in Europe. And that's it. It was great to spend these 10 and perhaps about 12 or 15 minutes with you. And I wish you lots of inspiration the rest of the afternoon. Unfortunately, I cannot stay longer, so I will leave you. Sorry for that, but I have other meetings to attend to. But I wish you lots of inspiration and hope to see you around. And feel free to connect.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Jan.